considering all that's going on in this country right now, I felt after having a lot of dialogue in my own home with my wife, with my brother-in-law, after going to a very powerful church service on Sunday with a pastor who is from Dallas, um, and then later actually going to the gun range for a birthday gift that I had and firing a 9mm weapon. Um, you got all these things stirring around. I just felt like there were a few things I wanted to add and share, hopefully to be of some encouragement or service or provide perspective. First is that cops are they're they're fallible. We like to say how many are good, how many are bad. If you look at scripture, we know that none of us are good, and yet they're in this role where they have firearms and have sort of the ability to, people look to them to sort of like be arbiters of justice, and so it's an extra level of responsibility. And so um, when they're making mistakes, it's all the more apparent. And I'm not interested in all the stats that people are throwing around with this or that or the other way. I think one life lost unjustly is too much. And frankly, I think that there's a problem, in the policing world. And I'm saying this from my own personal experience, and I'm not trying to like make this about me, but the reality is I have had many problems with the cops. Even in one case in Philadelphia, being run down by two cops in hoodies in an undercover car. They literally chased me down. I ran for my life, literally pissed my pants as they took their car at 60 miles an hour in downtown Philly, ran me off the road, ran over my bike. I bailed off, and before I knew what happened, they were on top of me on the ground with a boot on my neck. Um, and never got an explanation as to why, except for they said that there were shots fired at them in the neighborhood, and they thought, me on a $2,000 bike, as preppy as you could get coming home from work, was a threat to them. Never got an explanation, never got an apology. All I got was a check to fix my bike up. Despite the interviews that the police unions put in place to interview me, nothing happened. Never even got an apology. And so I think there's a problem there, and I can't. That was like my little taste of like what it must be like to be someone who is growing up in a neighborhood where they come from a very different background, black, Latino, whatever, where they're being even more questioned and stereotyped, on a regular basis. I think if you're growing up in that scenario, then you're gonna question legitimacy of the system that you're in. I completely identify with that. I think it's screwed up. I think we need to demand more. I support people who are asking those hard questions and saying the time is long overdue for that to happen. Doesn't mean I'm anti-cop. I love cops. I think it's an important role. I think we need to pray for cops and for our country and those in these positions of authority, because these are people entering into a career that is difficult. I can't imagine on a daily basis how they can go into communities and see what they see and do what they do and not become calloused and burn out and to have a quick trigger. I get that too, right? So what do? You got difficult situations on either side, and I think what we're missing in this is that we need the Lord. We need if you have anger and you have you're blinded with hatred and fear and all the things that are mounting up, pitting us against each other, what else can you do to remove those things from the equation, to kick the divisions out, and deny the enemy his ultimate goal of dividing us and killing us all and having us killing each other? You need to slow down, stop, get together, come together in prayer. You need to come together in song. We need to come together in encouragement. And I'm not talking just like for show. I'm talking about walking with each other day in and day out, having conversations around kitchen tables, having an honest look at the system and, the cultures in some of these police forces, and saying, this is crap, and looking at some of the cultures in some of the communities where there's a lot of crime, and saying, this is crap, we demand more. And you know what, we're implicated in this stuff, right? I'm not saying like me living in Berwyn is responsible for what's happening in Dallas, but I think I got to look around my area locally and say, what role am I playing? Is there something I should be doing? Can I stop by and encourage people? Or even in my own heart, when I see people, what are the thoughts that go through my head, and just and really seeking to be honest about that and praying about that, in my family. And that's, I wish I could say that one case in Philly, which I would call it just flat out police brutality, um, I wish I could say that was the only time. It wasn't. Another time I was walking out to grab dinner with Whitney when we were dating in the city, and there was a couple police doing something. I don't know if they were arresting somebody, and we went across the street, and there was a cop standing in the middle of the road, and we didn't know what was going on, and this guy just unloaded on us, like the foulest mouth, like, what the F are you doing, like, get out of here, didn't, like, how would we know, just like an assault on us verbally, to the point where I was like shocked, and Whitney was in tears. We never expected that. I walked right down a block away to the police office in that community, and I filed a complaint. I'm like, that guy is out of control. There's no way he should be acting that way and talking that way to us. We did absolutely nothing. And then in San Jose, we had a situation where Whitney's car got broken into. I was traveling, glass everywhere, couldn't get in, the car was just covered in glass. She had a dog with her, alone in a park. Called the cops to say, hey, what do we do? I want to file a report. Can somebody help me? And they said, nothing we can do. It's not a big crime, and we don't come out and help people clean up their cars. So you're on your own. And she was so upset about it. I mean, we just moved to the area, and it's like, it just seems like long gone are the days where you have the experience where, there's too many experiences where there doesn't seem to be a real desire to serve and protect. And I don't know if it's like cops don't live in their communities anymore. I don't know what it is. I have cops that are friends, former friends. My last pastor was a cop, so I love talking to him. We're not pointing fingers. We're just saying we're getting pitted against each other culturally. The enemy has found a way into some of these forces, and forces where they got a gun and can pull you over, and you're gonna have to stop, and there's stuff that's going on that's just not cool. So, I empathize with, I can't imagine what it's like to be, a young black man or whatever race that is just being profiled. And I think it sucks. And after a while, I could imagine how they would, after getting shaken down and questioned and looked at constantly and pulled over, I can imagine where you would just get fed up, and and you're not being heard. So I get it, on some level. And I feel for the cops, man. I feel like, how do they do their job? It must be so stressful. And you look at these big challenges, and you're like, what's the solution? And I know part of it is a love and a bridging divisions and gaps that are deeply entrenched, that is not humanly possible. It needs godly leadership. This is an instance where we gotta look up, because we're looking around at each other, and it doesn't seem to be getting better. So Lord, come please and be with my country, be with the police forces, the government, and legislative bodies, the people who in city halls and magistrates have jurisdiction over this. Help help the communities to become better known to the cops, for bridges to be made, to understanding to happen, and love and compassion to spill forth, And just, we're starting to see some of this right now. In the news, you're seeing examples of protesters and anti-protesters coming together, and I just pray that there's more of that we find healing, and that we can look to the Lord and say, this is something we wouldn't have done, couldn't have done, didn't have the strength or the wisdom, and yet here it is, and it's in our land. We're humbled, and as a result, our land before God has been healed. That's really where I'm at. It's the prayer. And if for me, about as white guy as you can get, has been having these situations, then man, I can't imagine what it's like for a lot of other people in this country, and it sucks. And it's time to mourn for those people. It's time to mourn for those communities, and to look long and hard, and not point fingers, and do a lot of listening to to folks who are protesting and who are feeling just really beat up, and really seek healing for that. So that's all I got. I love you guys. I don't post these things on Facebook unless I really sort of think through it, and this has been on my mind. And so I just offer that to you.